Hey everybody, Questwise here, and today we're going to try something a little bit different. We are going to use Forbidden Lands to run a solo role-playing session. That's right, solo role-playing session. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know I've been talking about aspects of solo role-playing and how you can do this by yourself. And I've been doing it for a number of different reasons. First of all, I've been doing it to help me learn a game system, which I know this system, fairly well, but I'm not a master at it. I'm also using it for entertainment and to sort of explore some ideas to increase my range of storytelling and imagination for when I do actually play with a group. So, as I was looking at what games I wanted to try and do a session for, I was looking over Forbidden Lands, and I realized that Forbidden Lands would work amazingly well for a solo role-playing session, campaign, whatever, adventure. Today we're going to do something. It's not going to be super long. It's going to be sort of a session where I've already created a character off screen, but we're going to use the supplement that comes in the box set in order to develop a quest, an idea, a backstory, a legend that we're going to try to follow, at least for the first little bit of this video. And if you like it, we're going to make this a long-term thing, but I wanted to just use this first video as a way to show you how different games can be used for solo role-playing experiences. And this probably won't be the last game. I really want to do Forbidden Lands. I want to try out a few other different games as well too. Maybe some 5th edition. Thinking Conan from Odysseus, those kinds of things. Sorry for the weird harsh light. It's sort of been kind of cloudy on and off today, and I'm right next to a window in my dining room here. I'm also going to be using to emulate the Game Master, or use as an oracle. For part of this game, I'm going to be using the Mythic Game Master Emulator PDF that you can find over at DriveThruRPG, and I'll put a link down below as to where you can find that. I've got everything all set up here. Let's go through the character real quick before we develop our legend and get started. So I created a character. The kin is human, and this is going to be really hard to see with this harsh light. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I chose a hunter for my profession, and I wrote down all this stuff. I actually used the Forbidden Lands Legends and Adventurers to sort of randomly create this character. Of course, I've got my talents, my gear, all my skills laid out, my attributes, my other gear that I'm carrying, my consumables, all that kind of great stuff. There are some other videos out there on the internet that show you how to create a character for Forbidden Lands, but I highly recommend, at least for this session that we're going to be doing, I just did a random one out of here. Got some cool stuff. I also took some cards, some note cards that we're going to be using a lot today. I'll show you how to use those. And I wrote down my talents on here so that I could actually write out exactly what they mean. So when we get to those, to actually using those in the game, I'll pull these out and show you how those can be used. I also have my dice. Now, I don't have the standard Forbidden Lands dice, but I do have some dice. And as a reminder, I wrote down in here that the white dice will be my attribute dice, the green dice will be my skill dice, and the black dice will be my gear dice. So I have those all set over here as a reminder for me for that. But let's just jump right in, and I'll show you how this thing can create an adventure for you randomly. And I think that's the key to Forbidden Lands being a great system for solo role-playing, is that there's so much in here that's sort of randomly generated. When you're traveling across the map, which you'll see later, will you be using the map to travel, you can randomly generate encounters, you can randomly generate legends and ideas, and also each of the monsters has a very unique, excuse me, a very unique take on how they react to characters. There's a random table for each one of those as well too. So let's slip here to the legend generator, and again, it's just a series of D66 tables, because you know, Forbidden Lands primarily uses the you know, six-sided, a D6 system, and so most of the tables are going to be D66. If you've not used that system before, what you do is you simply, we're going to use green as the tens and red as the ones. We're going to use them in that order, and when you roll, you simply read them in that order. So, for instance, if we roll and we get 43, that's how that works, kind of thing. So, so let's get started. So, legend generator. I'm going to jot out the ideas on this note card so that we always have it as a reference as we are playing as well too. So it says a long time ago. You can see this very much here. So we're going to generate a legend, and it says a long time ago, 43, during the Alder Wars. Okay, so this was a long time ago. Let's go during Alder Wars. And this is all, you know, stuff that's in the core books, in the box set when you get them. The Alder Wars might come up later, and if it does, I'll sort of, you know, work my way through that and tell you a little bit more about that. There was a 66, an evil, and I'll write this out off screen so you don't have to be bored by all that. But there was an evil, and in the second part of the chart here, 14, there was an evil smith. Okay, so we've got some kind of a blacksmith, some kind of a smith type person. Who sought, next table over here? This is horrible lighting. I really apologize. Let's see. Who sought a 35? A treasure. Okay. Write that down. Treasure. Because of, let's find out why. 45. Because of a duty. So maybe he was seeking out a treasure because of, maybe he was obligated to do so. Maybe somebody had hired him to create something that he needed that treasure for. And he traveled to 26, a grave. Okay. So already we can kind of see that, you know, there's a story starting to come together already here. So during the Alder Wars, there was an evil smith who sought out a treasure due to a duty of some kind. Again, the legends of these are supposed to be a little bit vague, and we'll learn more about those as the game progresses. But he traveled to a grave, and let's find out where the grave was at. So just a single D6, a number 5. A grave far away from where we are currently starting, and I'll show you on the map in just a few minutes where we're going to be starting at. And the grave was located far away in 24, a quagmire. All right, in a swamp of some kind. All right, that's good to know. In the direction of, this is interesting here. This will let us know what direction we're going to be traveling. Oops, it's just a single D6. So a 3 to the east. Okay, that's good to know. And as the legend goes, it's said that he or she, 25, was never seen again. All right, never seen again. So we have a smith of some kind who left, you know, the area that we're starting in, and they went seeking this treasure in a grave far away inside a quagmire, which is interesting, to the east. Was never seen again, and that the location there, D66, 35, there was an invaluable book. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so there's some kind of a book. maybe the smith that was like a guide to creating something. And it's a very, that's the treasure, maybe, is this book. And so there's an invaluable book, and then the very last part of this, but also, I love this chart, D66, let's see, 65. There are Manic, and Manic what? 32. Saurians, okay, cool. That fits perfect. All right, so we have our legend. We've used this to generate our legend, sort of the beginning quest that we're going to partake in. I'll put this together into some kind of an actual story off of screen. But during the Alder Wars, which was long, long ago, and there are actually many, many of them, there was an evil smith who sought a treasure due to a duty in a grave far away inside a quagmire to the east. He was never seen again, looking for an invaluable book. Again, we're not really sure, and this will come up in the fiction as we drive along. But there, in the quagmire to the east, there are Manic Saurians. So we're possibly going to be fighting some lizard men type creatures. Interesting. Okay, so that's our quest. Let me show you how I'm going to use this map. So there's a map that comes with the Forbidden Lands box set. And I have a little green cube here that I'm going to use to track our progress. What I thought was that I would start maybe here in this little village. I kind of thought that maybe that would be a good place. But maybe not. Maybe we'll start over here in this village, because there's this like big area here and there's some quagmires here. Although it does say it's far away. So maybe we'll... let's see. Yeah, let's start here. We'll say this is our little village. There's a little marking on the map here of a little house, if you can see it very well. But we'll start there in that hex, and we'll make our way east. So north, east, south, and west. We'll make our way east, and we'll see what we can find. We'll travel. There's a few other spots on the map here. Maybe we can gather some rumors, that kind of stuff as well, too. Now, Forbidden Lands is, if you don't know much about it, I've done a review on this before, but Forbidden Lands is a very interesting setting. This is set up by, it's produced by Free League Publishing, and what it is really this world in which humans are sort of the alien here, right? They're the race that's not welcome. And there's this big, long backstory history, how they arrived, and they've moved into the Ravenlands, which are the northern part of this map here, and which is after this giant war with these demons and this evil wizard. And I'm just really briefly going over the history, because the history is very beautiful and very well thought out. The southern kingdoms had built a wall and through the mountains to stop everybody from coming back south. They wanted to stop this demon incursion and these wars, and by doing so, the Ravenlands then became known as the Forbidden Lands, beyond the mountains, beyond the wall. And so you play in this area, this Forbidden Lands. But what had happened was that one of the things that was unleashed during the wars was this thing called the Blood Mist. And they are demons that would rise up from the ground every night as this sort of red, hazy fog. And anybody who would travel outside of their homes would inevitably be killed or just disappear, never seen again. And so people stopped traveling. They stopped exploring. They stopped leaving their homelands, at least their towns, their villages, whatever, because people would never come back. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and we might get into that later, but it's all detailed in the books. But after a long period of time, I believe it was like a century, for some unknown reason, the blood mists have stopped. And people have begun to now move about and explore the Forbidden Lands once again. Because of that, everything basically on the map is unknown. It is completely Um, there are ruins, there are peoples out there that nobody has ever met. There's some crazy stuff going on. And so that's kind of the primer of this. And this is why this game makes a very good role-playing overall game in itself. But it makes a really good solo role-playing game as well, too, because the chances of exploration, the ideas of exploration, the seeking out of different things is very, very, very interesting. So we're going to set out on our quest, all right? We have our home village here, and we've decided that we're going to, due to our legend that we're going to try to explore, we're going to try to head east and try to discover what exactly is going on. So, to do that, there's a couple of different things that you can do. Each one of these hexes is a specific type of terrain. So we have hills, we have grasslands, we have forests, we have mountains. It's all very standard kind of stuff. We're going to try to head east, and what happens is that there's inside the Game Master's Guide, there is a chart for encounters that might happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to head out on our first hex. And this is, like I said, this video is going to be very short. I just want to show you some of the impact of how this game can work as a, as a solo role-playing experience. First thing I want to do is I want to hit up the Mythic Game Master Emulator for the odds. So I want to explain something to you real quick as well, too. The Mythic Emulator is a cool, great PDF. Like I said, I'm going to put a link down below. Go check it out. It's a few dollars. PDF, and it gives you some great kind of system neutral that you can use for any sort of solo role-playing experience. I believe the channel Me, Myself, and Die, which I'll link to down below because it's a fantastic channel. He uses Savage Worlds to run his game, but he uses the Mythic Emulator for this chart. But it uses a thing called a chaos rank. And as things get out of hand, as things get tougher, the chaos rank will increase, and it makes your odds of asking questions, of using an oracle, more difficult. Now, the chaos rank always starts out at 5. It can never go higher than 9. It can never go less than 1. But it starts off at 5, and that's going to affect the way that the chart works. First of all, I want to know a little bit about what I'm doing, where I'm going. Because I've never sort of left my homeland before, left this village, I want to know, do I think, we're going to say this is spring, the snows have melted, it's starting to get warmer out, and I want to know if I think, maybe I'll talk to the village elder and question him or her about what I think the outcome of my journey will be, if it's going to be safe travels. So it's a D100 chart, and so we'll ask a question of, let's see, I'll say it's chaos rank 5. So the oracle charts are meant to be yes or no questions that you'll ask, and I want to know if my journey will be easy this time of year. And if so, then we'll move about unhindered. We'll just roll some random encounters. But if it's going to be difficult, I'm going to add, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to add some difficulty to my encounter, traveling encounter. So I'm going to say right now it's spring, so it's somewhat likely that my travels will be easy. And so I'll roll and see what I get here. So I got a 32. The odds are, yes, they're in my favor. The travel will be somewhat easy because of the weather that we're having. So we're going to move. We're going to leave our small village over here, and we're going to move. There's a lake to the south of us here. I'm going to move sort of, let's see, northeast, because we know we need to go in an easterly direction. So I'm going to move northeast to this next hex. And I'm going to use the Game Master's Guide to try and pull up a encounter. Okay, so here's our encounter table in the Game Master's Guide. Now we are in the plains. We're in a plains hex here. It's fairly clear. So we are going to roll a D66 and see if we have an encounter. We got a 42. So yeah, we have an encounter, and what this is kind of cool, the way this is set up is almost like a choose your own adventure. So you roll for the type of terrain that you're in, and you know, depending on what your roll is, there's a lot of times that there's nothing going to happen. 11 through 36, nothing happens. We rolled a 42. So we're going to turn to entry number 16 and see what we come up with. Alright, so entry number 16 is the Dwarf Balloon Pilot. And it says, at a distance you see a green cocoon up in a tree. Where you get when you get closer, you can see that's an air balloon stuck in the top of a tree. Okay, so we have an encounter here that we've found a random tree in this plains, in this area, maybe a small stand of trees, and we see this this green sort of balloon stuck in the tree, and we are going to go and try and investigate. So the way we want to do that, there's a couple of different things here. We want to look at our sheet and see what it is that maybe we have skill-wise that we can use to help out or to investigate. So I have scouting. My best skills are marksmanship because I'm a hunter. Scouting, which allows me to look ahead and be sort of not ambushed by creatures. We have survival, which is great when we're looking for food and setting up camp and stuff. But everything else I'm not very skilled in. I'm still very young. And the way that Forbidden Lands works is that whenever you're trying to attempt to do something, you're going to roll a number of dice equal to your attribute, and a number of dice equal to your skill, and any gear that you might have. So currently I don't really have, I have a backpack, some simple clothes, flint and steel. I don't really have anything that's going to help me get up this tree. So I could attempt to simply use my agility to try to climb the tree, which is probably what I will do. Although, let's look at scouting skill and see what that does for us. Maybe that'll give us some better idea into what we're going to try to do to attempt to help this dwarf. Okay, so here we have the scouting skill. It uses my wits as the attribute dice. It says, as an adventurer in the Forbidden Lands, you always have to be on your guard. You won't live you won't live very long. You use your scouting skill to discover anyone sneaking up on you. You can also use this skill when you see something or someone at a distance and you want to know more about it. If the roll is successful, you'll see what it is and can determine whether or not it's a threat to you. Alright, so we're going to try that. So the way that skills work in this game, and as we can see here, we don't have a skill that's going to help us. Or what we do, we have scouting. So, and it's a wits. So our wits is 4. So we're going to use 4 white dice for our attribute. And our skill for scouting is 2. So we're going to use 2 green dice as well for that. And how this works is you're looking for 6s. And when you roll the dice, you're going to get, if you get 1 6, you're successful. If you get more than 6, you're going to gain a willpower point, which you can use for other things later. A lot of my talents are actually fueled by willpower points. So we've got 2 6s. That's great. We didn't get any 1s. 1s are, on your first roll, not bad, but will get worse if you try to push your roll. And if we ever get to that point, I'll show you how pushing your roll works. So these are nothing. We got 2 successes. So I'm going to grab one of these, what I'm going to use as a willpower point. And I'll set that aside so I know that I have it. But we are successful in our scouting skill. So I will say this will allow me to ask a question on the Mythic table, but with a benefit. I'm going to say it's We're going to ask and see if I feel like this is something that's dangerous, going to be dangerous to me. I'm going to say it's, because of our success, I'm going to say it's unlikely, and we'll give it a roll. We'll see what happens. I got a 53. So a 53 is a... I'm going to say it's very likely that we're good. So 53 is a success. So we know that this is not going to be... it doesn't seem to be a danger to us. It doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's very dangerous to us. But we need to try to get up there and help this dwarf. Let's investigate a little bit further. First of all, let's see if we can climb up there and help him. We don't really have anything to help us on this, so we're going to use just our agility, which is just our attribute. So we're going to roll 4 dice and try to roll at least 1 6 to get up the tree to the actual balloon and the dwarf, and see if there's anything we can do to help. All right, so we didn't roll any 1s, and we got 1 6, which means we were successfully able to climb up. So as you can see with this, because we didn't have any skills that could help us get up there, I'd used just my attribute dice, which is fine. We got a success. So let's take a look and see what is going on with this dwarf. The dwarf Andred disavowed the god Huge after a tunnel collapse killed his family. Andred, we don't have to know any of this kind of stuff. It just says he's traveling by the Forbidden Lands by hot air balloon, and to survive, he lays anchor at night on top of homes and steals things he can trade for later food and necessities. The balloon has now crashed into a tree. Andred has broken his leg. He needs help to repair the balloon, but is afraid that the adventurers will rob him. Andred has 3 loaded crossbows and a battle axe. In the balloon, there is a stolen property, 1 simple and 1 valuable find. Roll on the layers table to find this. So, here he is. He's stuck in this tree, and he's afraid that we're going to steal this stuff from him. Now, how do we make this? Let's see. So we want to try to approach him. We don't want to steal anything from him. Like, I feel as my character, Talene, the hunter, she doesn't want to steal anything from him. She's on her way to do something else, but felt like, maybe we should stop and investigate this thing. Now, here's the dilemma, and here's the great thing about solo role-playing. Do we want to stop and help him? We've now seen what's wrong with him. We realize that he's probably a thief. He's kind of aggressive, according to the entry that we read. And do we want to, in any way, help him? Or do we want to just let him, what's in our nature, I guess? And so we have to decide kind of what we want to do. We'll help him. We feel bad for this guy. So we're going to try to help this guy, but he's tangled up in all these ropes and stuff, and he's also afraid we're going to steal stuff from him. So first thing we need to do is try to calm him down. We need to try to explain to him that we're not here to hurt him or steal his stuff. We are simply here to try and help him. Now, and it gives us a little bit of stuff in here, and I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to do an opposed empathy roll for this dwarf. So it gives us a little bit, entry into his thing. He has an empathy of 4. We have an empathy of 4 as well too, and he has an insight of 4. So we're going to try to tell him. We're actually just going to let him do an insight roll. So again, attribute 4 and skill 4 as well too. So we're telling him, hey, we're not here to hurt him. He's going to do an insight roll. So this is for the NPC. This is for the dwarf, to see if he believes us or not. So any 6s, he'll believe us that we're not here to hurt him. He's doing an insight to see if we're truthful or not. We got 1. Okay, and we got 1. That doesn't matter for NPCs though. So he trusts us, but he's still a little wary. I would say this would be a scalable thing. If we got a bunch of 6s, he would be very open into letting us help him. But he got 1, so he's a little wary, but he is accepting our help. Now, how can we help this guy? We could use, what do we have? I have a knife. So as part of my weapons, part of my gear, I have a knife. So I could try to cut him down. I would think that might be a strength check as well. Trying to see if there's anything. I don't really have anything that can help me as far as skill wise, but I think we're going to try to cut him down. I think it's going to be a strength check. So we're going to use, our strength is 3, so we're going to use 3 attribute dice, and our knife gives us a +1 bonus. So we're going to use 1 gear die as well too. So we need 6s to see if we can actually cut him down. And we don't, but we get 2 1s. Okay, this is where the game gets really interesting, and this is what I love about this. And this is the reason why we use different colored dice. Had I rolled a 1 on my gear die, and I pushed... Now, 1s don't mean anything on the first roll. I can push my roll now, which means I can roll everything except for 1s and any 6s that I got. This is a failed roll, so I could just leave it at this and say, I did not help the dwarf. I was not able to cut through the ropes to help him get free. If I had rolled a 1 on my gear die and I pushed the roll and failed again, something bad would happen to my knife. It would either break or I would drop it or something like that. Now this is just my attribute dice. Now here's the bad thing about this. If I roll this again, I push my roll, I will incur these things. These will become active, and these will actually do damage to me. Because I'm using my strength, something will happen. I'll hurt my arm, maybe the rope will cut me as it breaks free, that kind of an idea, right? But right now it's not doing anything. It's very bad that I have 2. This would actually do 2 damage to me if I fail, actually if I push the roll at all. So if I fail the next roll, it's going to hurt me. I think I'm not going to risk it. I only have a 3 strength, and you use your attributes as sort of your hit points. So if I were to lose all of my... And this would really badly wound me if I were unsuccessful on my next roll. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the dwarf, I'm really sorry, I can't seem to get you free. I'm going to try to go get help for you. This is a horrible thing to do. Very, very horrible thing to do to this dwarf. But I think we are... that's what we're going to do. So we're going to make a note that the dwarf, and we'll get his name out of here. They do give you a name. His name is Andred. So Andred the dwarf. Oops. Andred the dwarf. And I'm going to just put in here 16 in the little bubble, so as to say that was the encounter that we had. And we're going to promised to get him help. Yeah, and so this will be an ongoing kind of thing. This will be kind of added to our current quest. If we really want to go and actually try to find help for him, we can definitely try to do that. We don't really know what's out here beyond our village. We could go back to our village and try to get someone to help him, or we could push on and try just go on further and continue our current quest, our journey, and hopefully come across somebody who maybe can help him. We're pretty close to home. We haven't traveled very far, so we could go back and get him some help. He's not very far away. Chances are, though, the stuff that he has with him that he's stolen was probably stolen from us at some point. We just didn't know about it. But somebody back home knows that, he had stolen stuff from them. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually just push on one more space. Now, what we need to do is that each one of these, we're going to count each one of these hexes as being a quarter of a day. We're going to say that we're going to push on one more as time sort of progresses. And I believe the book says that each one of these, traveling from each hex is a quarter of a day. We're going to say that we're going to push on into the next hex, see if there's an encounter, and if there is, we'll deal with it, and if not, we will camp, and that's where we'll end the video for today. So we'll push on into the next hex, telling Andred that we're going to go try to find him some help, and we'll push on into the next section and see if we have an encounter. So we're still in the plains. It's starting to get dark. I'm going to use a roll for an encounter. We get a 65. That can't be good, right? So we have the encounter 15, which is right next to the 16. We find Beggars. All right, so 15 is Beggars. It says, you see them from afar, a crowd of hungry and weary wanderers dressed in rags. The beggars surround you and outstretch hands, saying nothing. It says there are 20 that was burned down by other adventurers. Okay, so interesting. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to start using my skills a little bit. One of my things I can do is I'm going to make a scouting roll. So generally when you're traveling with a party in Forbidden Lands is that everybody has a sort of a task that they're doing. Somebody's scouting ahead, somebody is watching for danger, those kinds of things. So I'm going to make a scouting roll and try to see if I am not surprised by these beggars, that I see them from afar. Maybe I can use my abilities to sneak around them or hide from them until they pass by. So I'm going to, because I really don't have much to give them at all. So I'm going to use my scouting, and scouting is a wits. So I'm going to get 4 dice for my wits, and I'm going to get 2 dice for my scouting. Okay, let's see what we can do here. And I failed. All right, is it worth pushing it? It's possible that I could push this roll. Just for the sake of showing you how it's done, I'm going to do it. So we'll go to the section in here on pushing rolls. Okay, so here we are, pushing your roll. If you're desperate to succeed with a dice roll, you can choose to push it. This means that you grab all the dice that did not come up 6s or as 1s and roll them again. You get a new chance to roll some 6s. You cannot re-roll. You cannot choose which dice to re-roll. When you push a roll, you must roll all the dice that did not come up as 6s or 1s. Generally, you would only push a roll if you failed it, although you can push a roll to succeed. How a push roll plays out in story terms depends on what kind of action you're performing. It doesn't have to be a physical effort. It might be about complete mental focus or an emotional struggle. Skill dice. When you push a roll, 1s from the skill dice do not count as bad as 1. It can be rerolled even if they do come up as 1. Hence, the symbol does not appear on the dice. We're using our own dice. Gear dice. If you push your roll, you must also push any gear dice, and you can only do it 1 time. When you push yourself hard, there's a risk that you will suffer damage or exhaustion. For every 1 that you roll on your base die, when you push, you suffer 1 point of damage, and for every 1 you roll on a weapon die, when you push, the bonus is decreased by 1. So we have 1s on our attribute dice. So that means we're actually going to, we'll take some exhaustion to our wits. Let's see. Do we want to do this? Yeah, we're going to push it just to show you this kind of thing. We're going to push the roll. So I'm going to pick up all of these dice. These ones are going to become activated afterward. And because it's a wits roll, we'll just roll. We want to try to avoid these people as much as possible. Nothing. Oh, horrible. Okay, so worse things worse. I activated these. Because it's a wits thing, I took 3 points of willpower damage, which means I'm becoming exhausted. This is it's very bad, but I still was not able to avoid them, which means that they're now going to approach me and they're going to be just holding their hands out for stuff. The only thing I can do is try to give them something and hope that they'll be appeased by it, which I will use my emulator to determine if that's possible. Or I can try to attack them. There's 20 of them, though. The book says that there were 20 of them. And so, It's tough. I don't have much gold. I think I have like 6 silver pieces. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to try to give them 6 silver. So I'm going to erase this. Although there's 20 of them, 6 doesn't seem like much. So I'm going to give them my 6 silver pieces. And let's see. I don't know. So I'm going to look at my chart. And we're still at chaos factor 5. Nothing really bad has happened here yet. And I'm going to say it's a 50-50 chance that they will take the 6 silver pieces and go on their way. Because, you know what? No, better yet, I'm going to say it's unlikely that they're going to take this and go. Because there's 20 of them. 6 isn't going to do much. So let's roll, and we'll see. I got a 14. Yes, they do. All right, perfect. So I needed a 35 or less. I got a 14, which means that they're happy with this, and they go on their way. So here's what I need to do for this. The night has fallen. They've gone on their way. Maybe I've told them, hey, further south is my village. You can go there. Maybe they'll give you some food and some shelter and stuff. But here, I'm on my travels. I also tell them, hey, when you go back there, let them know that, Andred is stuck in a tree. Try to send him some help. So now I have to set up camp, and I want to show you how this works as well too. So setting up camp is an interesting thing, and it's going to determine whether if I heal my wits at all. It's also going to determine if how my gear gets used and stuff as well too. So let's see. Okay, so here we are in the making camp portion of this. Is when the journey of the day is over, it's time to make camp. Finding a good location for making camp, making a fire and preparing where to sleep takes a whole quarter day, usually an evening. One person makes a make camp roll, but others can help. Make a survival roll modified by the quartermaster talent. Now, I don't have the quartermaster talent. If you roll succeeds, you find shelter in a comfortable place to spend the night, where you can all rest up before the next day's journey. If your roll fails, your camp is less pleasant, and you still set up camp where you can rest and sleep, but the game master makes a roll and determine how bad it is. So we don't have the quartermaster talent, so we're going to make a survival roll, which is 1. It's also a wits, so we're going to use 4. And a 1. So we're going to try to set up our camp for the evening. And we fail. Now we could push the roll. There's nothing bad happening here yet. We don't have any 1s that we have to worry about. But we do, we will activate those on the next stuff if we do so. So let's do so. We're going to push the roll. We can only do it 1 time. We're going to roll everything. We have to. Ah, crap. All right. So this one doesn't count anything. Skills don't matter on 1s. But we did fail one, and we're going to take another wits blow, which means we are at 4. That is our max. And so let's find out what happens when you lose your wits. Okay, so life as a roaming adventurer is hard and risky. The rewards may be great, but the only thing you know for sure is that you will suffer all sorts of damage along the way. Damage can come in many forms and reduces one of your 4 attribute scores. Damage to wits: fear, panic, confusion, misjudgment. Read furthermore under fear attacks on page 112. So now something's happened. We've pushed ourselves to exhaustion, and this is it's definitely weighing on us heavily. We're not really scared of anything, so fear it's not a fear-based attack. But we're going to say that we are completely exasperated. This place is much more dangerous than we could have ever thought. And so we are terrified by what's happening. We might be even the point where maybe we will return home. Like, we were that scared of what's happening. So we're going to close on this scene right here, that we are now here in this field, and horrible things have happened to us, and we are terrified, and we're going to close on that aspect of this video for today, and we'll come back next week and see what happens to Talene and whether she decides to go back home or if she's going to push on and see if we can heal our wits and how that's going to happen. Thanks for watching for this today. If you liked this video, check the comments down below. Let me know what you think. And until next time, I'm Questwise, and I am out.